Hey guys, what's going on? My name's Scott, welcome to the channel, and today I'm going to be talking about 4 More Shots Please, Season 2. Now, if you don't know what 4 More Shots Please is, it's about 4 flawed female friends living in Mumbai. I've already done a video on Season 1, so check that out. Basically, it picks up a few months after the devastating end to Season 1, where everyone's lives kind of just fell apart. Each of the girls had a semi-terrible event happen to them at the end of the previous season, and this season kicks off with them all split apart, trying to pick themselves back up. And the season starts partly in Istanbul, in Turkey, where one of the girls is in Turkey having almost a midlife crisis, even though she's 20 odd years old, which I guess can happen. And then the rest of the girls come and meet her in Istanbul, and then they get back together, they bond, they become friends once again, find a way to forgive each other for anything they may or may not have done in the past, and they move on. So, as I said, the girls in this series, they all get back together and become friends again, and they return back to Mumbai by the end of the first episode. The rest of the season is the same as the last season, pretty much. However, this season is a lot more in-depth. The storylines are much more defined, and actually, stuff happens in these episodes. One of the problems I had with the previous season was some of the episodes, barely anything happened. And most of the episode was taken up with just them drinking in a bar, which is fun to watch, but if it gets a little boring every episode that they do it. But this season focuses a lot more on individual plot lines for each episode, which works a lot better. For instance, the first girl, who is the journalist, she is writing a book, and throughout this season is her trying to write this book. She gets writer's block at one point. She also then finishes the book and then struggles to get it published, and various other things connected to the book also happen. And again, she has some relationship problems between the bartender and the doctor, of which she was romantically involved with both of them. But this time there's a twist, which I'm not going to spoil. The second girl, the one that has the 4/5-year-old daughter, maybe 6-year-old daughter, not sure, is back on her feet. She's looking after her daughter. However, this series delves a lot more into a career, of which it didn't seem to cover a career at all in the first season, which I did think was odd. But this season, it's pretty much, to start with, almost exclusively about her career. Her daughter kind of takes a back seat in this series. She's not as prominent as the first series. So she's a lawyer, and basically the series revolves around her in a current job at the law firm that she works at. And she receives a lot of discrimination, sexism from her boss and colleagues. And she decides to move on. She gets a different job, and then that moves into another storyline, which I don't want to spoil that because that's interesting as well. And this story is much better than the first series. Her story in the first series I thought was a bit slow at times, and it didn't really do much. It didn't really cover many bases. But this series, it's all about the career, almost all. The third girl, who is the bisexual woman, is picking up pieces after the last series. She's helping her friend / ex-client / girlfriend. She's helping her girlfriend reclaim her life after she falls into this dark abyss where she's hated by lots of people, and so socially she's not very accepting, and she's in a deep depression essentially, and she's helping her get out of this hole, of which I thought this series, her story wasn't as compelling as the last series to begin with, but then in the later episodes of the season it gets much better. And she also has a surprise, which I'm not going to spoil, and it's very good. The second series, her story is not as good in this one to begin with, but it does get better. And I would say overall it is generally better than the first season. And finally, the fourth girl, who is the 23-year-old virgin who is no longer a virgin because she hooked up in the previous season. She is pretty much having a midlife crisis at 23. She's trying to fix a relationship with her family, especially her father, who has decided to shun her. And she's also trying to work out what she wants to do with her life, because she wants a job or career, but she can't quite find it. And then she falls into a career, which is another thing I'm not going to spoil. I'm not going to spoil that either. Of which there's a couple of surprises for her in this season, which, again, I'm not going to spoil. But her story is much better in this. The previous season, it was all about the arranged marriage and her going against her parents and meeting guys without their permission, and her she had an online addiction or something like that. But this season, it's a lot more focused on her career and family, which is much better. As I've probably already said, the cast in this is great. Just like the first season, they feel real and genuine. The plot lines each one of the cast has are much better in this season overall. There are some points where I thought it's a bit slow, or it drags, or it's kind of the same as the previous season, but overall it is much better than the previous season. This is probably because the episodes are actually longer. Each episode is about 40 to 45 minutes. They are at least 5 to 10 minutes longer than the previous season. And because of this, they are much more detailed and focused on the individual storylines in each episode, of which each episode is its own story. It focuses on its own element of each character's life, which again it's much better than the previous season, which at first did linger along and drag a little bit at the beginning, and then it did get better and actually more focused and detailed. But this season starts like that right from the beginning. I don't know if I mentioned this in the previous season episode that I did, but this series has a lot of sex in it, of which can be good, but can also be bad. It depending on, whether sex is all you care about in a TV series. Game of Thrones for some people. The last thing I'm going to say, positive-wise, is this season is much funnier than the last. From the very beginning, it opens up with joke after joke after joke, and it seems to continue like that. And again, it's described as a comedy drama, which I thought was the wrong term to use in the previous season, because it had more drama than comedy and barely any comedy. But this season has a good mix between the comedy and drama. However, I would say it is a bit more drama heavy than comedy, but that's just me. Now, some negatives. Like I said in the first season episode, the language barrier is still an issue. I was kind of hoping fix that just a little bit, and there was a point in the first episode where I thought, this isn't as complicated language-wise than previous season. But then, as soon as I thought that, it pretty much immediately proved me wrong and just did what it did in the last season, which is alternative languages in a sentence. Every other word is a different language, which is annoying. And there are a lot of silly, stupid things. Like, there's some silly situations that some of the characters get into, which is a bit odd. It didn't really provide anything for the series in any good way. And there's also some really bad dialogue from one character in particular, which is involved in the fourth woman's storyline, where he's kind of instrumental in her storyline. And again, I don't want to spoil it, but he is not particularly that good in it. He's got some really bad dialogue, and he's not a particularly good actor. Sorry, dude. So, overall, the second season of Four More Shots, Please is a lot more detailed, a lot more focused on the details, which is great. It's also funnier, and it feels much more of something because of the longer episodes. and it spends less time doing pointless and meaningless things like just drinking for the sake of it, which the first season did quite a lot to begin with, and then it obviously got better. This season starts good and it ends even better, I would say. But there are some dumb plot points and silly, unrealistic things that certain characters do, and also dumb dialogue. However, again, this series is much better than the first, I would say. I did read some comments online saying that the first season was better, but I don't agree. I think the second is much better. There is a third season coming to Amazon Prime sometime next year being 2021. Exciting. Which I will be watching. So watch out for that in the future. Well, anyways, guys, that's what I think. Tell me what you think in the comments down below. Leave a like if you like this video. And until next time, bye-bye. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe. See you next time.